Today, we're going to talk about one of the most mysterious and powerful women on the entire planet. She's someone who stepped out of the shadows, charmed the world, and then, almost overnight, became the most threatening voice of a nuclear-armed country. This is the story of Kim Yo-jong.
I mean, just look at this. On one side, you have the face North Korea wanted us to see back in 2018. The smiling, soft-spoken diplomat at the Winter Olympics, this symbol of hope. And then, on the other side, you have the face we see today, the one spitting threats, calling your enemies vicious dogs. It's like looking at two completely different people, right?
These two versions of her are so totally opposite. It forces you to ask the one question we're going to try to unravel today. Who is the real Kim Yo-jong? And to even begin to find an answer, we have to go way back to a childhood that was wrapped in layer upon layer of secrecy.
Long before she was ever a figure on the world stage, she was basically a ghost, living this incredibly strange life, hidden in plain sight, right in the middle of Europe of all places.
So get this, in the mid-90s, she and her brother, the future dictator Kim Jong-un, actually went to Disneyland Paris. You can just picture them, two little kids standing in front of Sleeping Beauty's castle. They look like any other tourists, but as this quote says, even though they're royalty, their life was no fairy tale. It was more like a gilded cage.
Let's just break down how bizarre this upbringing really was. She and her brother are living in Bern, Switzerland, but they're using fake names and fake passports. They're pretending to be the kids of diplomats. And the woman taking care of them isn't their mom, it's their aunt, an aunt who would later defect to the US. And then one day, they just vanished from their school. No goodbye, nothing, just gone. That level of control and secrecy has really defined her entire life.
So after being yanked back to North Korea, she basically disappears again. But this wasn't the end of her story. Oh no, this was the start of a slow, very deliberate, and perfectly calculated climb into the public eye right after her brother took over.
And this is the first time the world really sees her. It's 2011, at her father, Kim Jong-il's funeral, and she's just a weeping face in the crowd, way behind her brother. At this moment, her existence is pretty much a state secret. Even inside North Korea, hardly anyone knows who she is. She's a total ghost.
But then, her rise begins, and you can see it's all meticulously planned. First, she's just a quiet aide, seen in the background carrying her brother's clipboard. Then she gets closer, becoming the confidant, the one trusted enough to hold the heavy crystal ashtray for him. Soon after that, she gets a real title, a director in the powerful propaganda department. And then, finally, she hits the big time.
In 2017, she gets promoted to the Politburo. Now, this is not just some fancy title. The Politburo is the absolute top of the food chain in North Korea. It's the committee that makes all the real decisions. By getting a seat at that table, her status is cemented. She's not in the shadows anymore, she's right at the center of power.
But her real power, her true talent, it turns out, is something else entirely. It's her ability to control the story, to master the image, and to orchestrate her brother's complete rebranding on the world stage.
This really nails it. She's way more than just his sister. Think of her as his PR manager, his stage director, and his shadow. She's always there, setting things up before he arrives, trailing him like a ghost when he leaves. She was the absolute mastermind behind that 2018 charm offensive, a brilliant strategy to transform Kim Jong-un's image from a volatile madman into a legitimate world leader.
And man, did it work fast. Just look at this timeline. In February 2018, she's the diplomatic star at the Olympics. A mere 2 months later, her brother is shaking hands with the South Korean president. And then, bam, 2 months after that, he's in a historic meeting with the President of the United States. This whole diplomatic blitz, that was her production.
She also brought the regime's propaganda machine into the 21st century. Under her guidance, North Korea went digital. They started using Western platforms like YouTube to pump out these really slick vlogs showing a modern, happy North Korea, with smiling people in amusement parks and department stores. It was all designed to fight the old narrative and get their version of the story out to the whole world. It was a really savvy move.
And for a little while, the world actually dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, North Korea was changing. But that was just one side of the story. And pretty soon, that friendly mask was about to come off, revealing the aggressive enforcer who was there all along.
This quote from author Sung-Yoon Lee just captures the turnaround perfectly. But it also makes you wonder why this sudden change.
Is this just a calculated good cop, bad cop routine, where she gets to be her brother's attack dog? Or is this the real Kim Yo-jong, finally showing her true colors? The world always thought Kim Jong-un was the tough one, but it turns out his sister might be even tougher.
And her actions really back that up. In 2020, she orders the demolition of a joint liaison office, a major symbol of diplomacy, just blown to bits. Then in 2022, she gives her first ever public speech and uses it to blame South Korea for their COVID outbreak. And by 2024, the tactics just get kind of weird and hostile. We're talking about balloons filled with trash and, worse, floated across the border. Yeah, the charm is definitely gone.
Her own words are just as harsh. In a statement from 2024, she basically says this, openly mocking anyone who ever thought North Korea might change. The message is crystal clear. All that diplomacy in 2018, it was a performance, not a change of heart.
So all of this brings us to the most important question of all. With this new aggressive persona, what's her endgame? What does her rise to power mean for the future of the Kim dynasty, and honestly, for the rest of the world?
The stakes here are just incredibly high. Kim Jong-un is still pretty young, but there are constant rumors swirling about his health. So you have to ask, what if something happened to him? You'd have a nuclear power suddenly left without a clear male heir. So who would take his place?
Well, there are really two main contenders. On one side, you've got his young daughter, Kim Joo-ae, who's been popping up at missile launches. But she's only around 11, way too young to actually rule. On the other side, you have Kim Yo-jong. She has the age, she has the experience, and she has the power. Sure, there are other male relatives, but none have her clout. She faces one massive hurdle, though. North Korea is a deeply, deeply patriarchal society. And this number really shows you what a challenge that is. 70% of the people who manage to escape North Korea are women, and many are fleeing state-sanctioned abuse and violence. For a woman to take ultimate power in a system like that wouldn't just be historic, it would be completely revolutionary.
But don't make the mistake of thinking she's just a mouthpiece. This right here shows the dark side of her power. According to multiple sources, she's already proven she can be just as ruthless as her brother, allegedly ordering the execution of top officials simply because they annoyed her. She definitely has what it takes to be feared.
So what we have is a propaganda genius, a ruthless political operator, and a potential heir to a nuclear throne. She is the closest confidant to the man with his finger on the button. And that leaves us with one final and pretty chilling question. How far is she willing to go?